A nationwide shift in gun law just hit that could change everything you thought you knew about suppressors and short barrel rifles. And if you don't understand what just happened, you could be leaving thousands of dollars on the table or worse, making mistakes that land you in federal hot water. Before we dive in, do me one favor, hit that subscribe button right now. Why? Because 90% of gun owners miss critical legal updates like this, and I don't want you to be one of them. This channel breaks down the laws that actually matter to you. This one is massive. So let's get into it. Here's what just happened. On January 1st, 2026, the $200 federal tax stamp for suppressors and short barrel rifles was completely eliminated. Gone. That's right. The same $200 fee that's been around since 1934 just disappeared overnight? Now, I know what you're thinking. Does that mean I can just walk into a gun store and buy a suppressor like it is a regular rifle? Not quite. And that's where a lot of people are getting confused. Let me break this down so it makes perfect sense. The tax is gone, but the registration requirement still exists. You still need ATF approval. You still need to fill out the forms. You still need to pass the enhanced background check. The only thing that changed is you don't have to pay $200 anymore. Think of it like this. Imagine you had to pay a toll every time you crossed a specific bridge, and one day the toll booth just shut down. The bridge is still there. You still have to follow the traffic rules. You still need a valid driver's license, but you don't pay the toll anymore. That's exactly what happened with suppressors and SBRs. Now let me tell you why this matters so much. For decades, that $200 tax was a massive barrier for regular gun owners. If you wanted to buy a suppressor that cost $600, you were actually paying $800 total. If you wanted 3 suppressors, that's an extra $600 just in taxes. And if you wanted to build your own short barrel rifle, you had to pay $200 just for the government's permission. That pricing kept a lot of people out of the NFA market entirely. But now, that barrier is gone. And here's what nobody's talking about. This change is causing an absolute explosion in the suppressor and SBR market. Dealers are reporting wait times doubled or tripled because so many people are jumping in now that the tax is eliminated. Some popular suppressor models are back ordered for months. Why? Because gun owners who were sitting on the fence for years are finally pulling the trigger, pun intended. But here's the crazy part. This tax elimination is just the first step. And this is where things get really interesting. There's a much bigger fight happening right now in Congress, and if it succeeds, it could eliminate the registration requirement entirely. Let me explain what I mean. Right now, even though you don't pay the $200 tax anymore, you still have to register your suppressor or SBR with the ATF. That means the federal government has a database with your name, your address, and every NFA item you own. And that registry has a lot of gun owners concerned. Why? Because if the government knows exactly who owns what, that makes confiscation a whole lot easier if laws change down the road. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's a legitimate concern that millions of Americans have. So what's being done about it? There's a bill called the Constitutional Concealment Act, also known as House Resolution 3228. This bill would remove suppressors entirely from the National Firearms Act. Not just the tax, not just reduce some paperwork. It would completely deregulate suppressors at the federal level. If this bill passes, buying a suppressor would be exactly like buying a regular rifle. You'd walk into a store, pass a standard background check, and walk out with your suppressor the same day. No registration, no waiting months for ATF approval, no federal database tracking what you own. It would be treated just like any other firearm accessory. And for SBRs, there's similar legislation being pushed to remove them from NFA restrictions as well. Now, quick legal note. This is educational information, not legal advice. Always consult an attorney for your specific situation. Every state has different laws, and even if federal restrictions disappear, your state might still regulate these items. All right, back to the big picture. If you're finding this helpful, imagine what you'll learn in my next video about the 5 words that protect you when cops ask about your gun. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Seriously, that video could save you from self-incriminating during a traffic stop, and it's coming out this week. Here's what most people get wrong about this whole situation. They think the tax elimination means everything is deregulated now. Wrong. They think they can build an SBR without filing any paperwork. Wrong. They think they can buy a suppressor online and have it shipped to their house. Also wrong. The rules are still in effect except for the $200 payment. You still file ATF Form 4 for a suppressor purchase. You still file Form 1 if you're building your own SBR. You still wait for approval, which can take anywhere from a few weeks to several months depending on how backed up the ATF is. The only difference is the payment section of the form now says $0 instead of $200. Let me give you a real-world example so this makes sense. Let's say you want to buy a suppressor for your rifle. Here's what the process looks like right now in 2026. First, you pick out your suppressor from a dealer. Second, you fill out ATF Form 4. This includes your personal information, fingerprints, and a passport photo. Third, you submit everything to the ATF and wait for approval. This is where the background check happens. Fourth, once approved, you pick up your suppressor from your dealer. Notice what's missing? The $200 check. That step is gone. But everything else is identical to how it was before. Now, here's the important part. If the Constitutional Concealment Act passes, steps 2, 3, and 4 disappear. You just do step 1, pass a regular background check like you do for any gun purchase, and walk out with your suppressor. That's the difference between tax elimination and full deregulation. So why didn't Congress just deregulate suppressors completely from the start? Why eliminate the tax but keep the registration? Great question. The answer is politics. Getting the tax eliminated was easier because it was buried in a larger budget reconciliation bill. Reconciliation bills only need a simple majority to pass, which means they can't be filibustered in the Senate. But full deregulation requires either 60 votes in the Senate or using reconciliation again, which has strict rules about what can be included. The strategy here is to take wins where you can get them. First, eliminate the tax and prove the sky doesn't fall. Then, use that success to build momentum for full deregulation. And that's exactly what's happening now. The Constitutional Concealment Act has real momentum because lawmakers can point to the tax elimination and say, look, we removed the tax and nothing bad happened. So let's finish the job. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Several states have already passed laws saying they won't enforce federal suppressor regulations for suppressors made and kept within their state borders. Texas, Kansas, and Montana are examples. These laws are being challenged in court, and those court cases could have massive implications. If the courts rule that suppressors do not affect interstate commerce and therefore the federal government has no authority to regulate them, that would be a game changer. It would mean the National Firearms Act itself is unconstitutional as applied to suppressors. And if that happens, the registry issue becomes moot because the federal government wouldn't have the power to require registration in the first place. But wait, there's something even more important you need to understand. The ATF is not happy about these changes. They've been fighting back in subtle ways. New evidence has emerged in ongoing lawsuits showing the ATF has been using discretion to deny NFA applications, even though the law says they're supposed to approve applications as long as the applicant is prohibited from owning firearms. In other words, the ATF has been making up reasons to deny people slow-walking approvals and generally making the process as difficult as possible. Why does this matter? Because even though the tax is gone, the ATF still controls the approval process. If they want to make your life difficult, they can. That's why the push to eliminate the registration requirement entirely is so critical. As long as the ATF has discretion over approvals, they have power to obstruct your rights. Hey, 73% of people watching right now aren't subscribed. Don't be part of that group. Join the 50,000 gun owners who get these updates first. Click subscribe. It's free, it takes 2 seconds, and it makes sure you never miss a critical update like this one. Let me give you some practical advice based on where things stand right now. First, if you've been waiting to buy a suppressor or build an SBR, now is the time. The tax is gone, so you're saving $200 per item. But be prepared for longer wait times because everyone else had the same idea. Second, don't assume the rules have changed more than they actually have. You still need approval. You still need to follow all the NFA regulations. The only thing that changed is the fee. Third, if you already own NFA items you paid the tax for, you don't get a refund. I know that stinks, but it's the reality. Think of it as the cost of early adoption. Fourth, stay informed about the Constitutional Concealment Act. If that passes, it will change everything. Fifth, check your state laws. Some states have their own restrictions on suppressors and SBRs that go beyond federal law. Just because something is legal federally doesn't mean your state allows it. Here's a hypothetical example to explain this. Let's say you live in California. Even if the federal government completely deregulated suppressors tomorrow, California state law still bans them. You still couldn't legally own one unless California changed its state law. Same goes for states like New York, New Jersey, Illinois, and others with their own bans. On the flip side, if you live in a state like Texas or Wyoming that's very pro-Second Amendment, you're in a much better position to take advantage of these federal changes. Always check your local laws before you make any purchases. Now let's talk about what happens next. The Constitutional Concealment Act is moving through Congress right now. It passed out of committee and is heading to a full House vote. If it passes the House, it goes to the Senate. With a Republican majority in both chambers and a Republican president who's publicly supported suppressor deregulation, the odds of this passing are the best they've ever been. Could it fail? Sure. There are moderate Republicans who might not support it, and obviously most Democrats oppose it. But the momentum is real, and gun rights advocates are more organized than ever. If this bill becomes law, we're talking about the biggest expansion of gun rights in decades, maybe ever. Here's the part that shocked me when I first learned about it. Suppressors are not quiet like you see in movies. They don't turn your gun into a whisper, quiet spy weapon. A suppressed gunshot is still extremely loud, just not eardrum-shattering loud. The whole point of a suppressor is hearing protection, not stealth. In most of Europe, suppressors are encouraged or even required for hunting because they're considered basic safety equipment. The idea that they're these dangerous criminal tools is Hollywood fiction, not reality. And that's why the deregulation movement is gaining so much traction. Once people understand what suppressors actually do, the fear factor disappears. Let me tell you why this registry issue matters so much. Right now, the ATF has a database of every person who owns an NFA item. That's millions of Americans. If laws change in the future, the government knows exactly who to target. And before you say that sounds paranoid, remember that other countries have used gun registries to confiscate firearms. Canada did it, Australia did it, the UK did it. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's historical fact. Now, I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen here, but the concern is legitimate. And that's why so many gun owners want the registry eliminated entirely. Once that information is collected, you can't uncollect it. The only way to truly protect privacy is to never create the database in the first place. This information could literally change after the congressional session ends. Subscribe now because the next video explains exactly what you need to do before that deadline hits. Don't wait. Hit that button. So here's where we stand today. The $200 tax on suppressors and SBRs is gone as of January 1st, 2026. That's a huge win for gun owners, and it's saving people serious money. But the registration requirement still exists, which means the ATF still has control over approvals and still maintains a federal database of who owns what. The next step is full deregulation through the Constitutional Concealment Act, which would remove suppressors from the NFA entirely. That bill is moving through Congress right now, and it has a real shot at passing. If it does, buying a suppressor will be as easy as buying any other gun. Meanwhile, court cases in multiple states are challenging federal authority to regulate suppressors at all, and those cases could reshape the entire landscape of gun rights. The bottom line is this. We're living through a massive shift in gun law, and the next 12 months will determine whether suppressors become freely available to all Americans or whether we're stuck with the current system indefinitely. Either way, if you've been on the fence about buying a suppressor or building an SBR, now is the time to act because you're saving $200 per item and prices might not stay this favorable forever. Here's my final advice. Educate yourself on these laws. Don't rely on rumors or what some guy at the gun store told you. Check the actual statutes and regulations. Work with a reputable dealer who knows NFA rules inside and out. Get your paperwork right the first time because mistakes cause delays. Be patient with wait times because the system is overloaded right now. And most importantly, stay engaged politically. These changes didn't happen by accident. They happened because gun owners organized, voted, and put pressure on their representatives. If you want to see more progress, you need to stay involved. Call your Congress members. Support pro-gun organizations. Make your voice heard. That's how we got here, and that's how we keep moving forward. The future of suppressor and SBR ownership is brighter than it's been in 90 years. The tax is gone. Full deregulation is on the table. Court cases are challenging federal overreach. This is the moment we've been working toward for decades. Don't sit on the sidelines. Get informed, take action, and help us finish this fight. If this video helped you understand what's happening, hit that subscribe button and share this with every gun owner you know. They need to hear this information just as much as you did. And remember, I'm putting out videos every week breaking down the latest gun law changes, court cases, and Second Amendment news you actually need to know. Don't miss a single one. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's keep fighting for our rights together. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and stay informed.